A Brexit party MEP has warned Boris Johnson's deal with Brussels will leave the UK vulnerable to a toxic time bomb of £32 billion if the Eurozone hits the skids, equal to more than a quarter of the NHS's annual budget. Robert Rowland also lamented the fact that UK negotiators have effectively written off £7 billion, €8 billion by abandoning any claim to accumulated profits from the European Investment Bank, EIB, which is jointly owned by the EU 28. That cash would have covered more than 1/5 of the £39 billion divorce bill the UK is likely to be expected to pay if Mr Johnson's withdrawal agreement and implementation bill is eventually ratified by Parliament. MEP for South East England Mr Rowland, a former hedge fund manager, told Express Co UK he and his party colleagues had attended a tense meeting with UK negotiators last week in which they learned the money had effectively been written off, suggesting the details had been swept under the carpet by Mr Johnson. Mr Rowland, who advocates a so-called clean break Brexit, believe there is no difference between the Prime Minister's deal and that of predecessor Theresa May in respect of the EIB. He added, "Everything the previous government did was done in order to smooth our re-entry into the EU at a later date. I am convinced of that." However, he warned there was a nasty surprise looking in the shape of callable capital, which in accordance with the terms agreed with Brussels, would leave the UK liable for vast amounts of cash if the Eurozone hits problems, which he is convinced it will do, suggesting both Germany and Italy were on the verge of recession. Stressing the £32 billion was in addition to oft-quoted £39 billion figure, Mr Rowland added, in the words of shareholders and board of directors, Philip Hammond had a fiduciary duty to negotiate our entire capital of €11 billion back to UK taxpayers and remove us from the toxic time bomb of at least €37 billion if the Eurozone blows up in the next 12 years. Highly likely within 24 months in my opinion. As a student of economics and 32 in financial markets working for Lazard, Soros Fund Management and O'Day Asset Management, I think it's the single biggest financial issue in the WA. It will come back to haunt us. I believe this is gross ineptitude. Even apart from this, the decision to waive rights to profits from the EIB has left him aghast. The UK paid the equivalent of £3 billion into the bank in 1973, when it joined what was then known as the Common Market, representing 16.1% of the total investment. Since then, the EIB has invested in capital projects in the UK included Crossrail and London Super Sewer, while gradually building up hefty reserves via retained profits. However, all the UK will get back is its original £3 billion stake, which Mr Rowland said would on its own be valued at least 10 times that amount today. Mr Rowland, whose tweet about the issue was in turn retweeted by party leader Nigel Farage, added, "I think people have been so focused on the backstop they have not focused on the real bread and butter issues here, which are horrific for this country. It's not even as if that £3 billion comes off the top of the £39 billion either, it's paid back in installments, over 12 years. It doesn't matter if you are leave or remain, this is outrageous." Mr Rowland also predicted the Luxembourg-based EIB, which is worth a total of €500 billion, would be used to bail out ailing European economies in the current years, explaining, "I think the EIB will become a vehicle to protect the EU. It's amazing how few people know about this, even financially literate people. In fact, it's as if it's been swept under the carpet."